So you shouldn't spend $500,000 on a car like this without doing a little bit of homework. Well, in this video, we've done it for you. So whether you're speccing up a brand new Revuelto or eyeing one up on the second-hand market, there's a lot you need to know before pulling the trigger. So we're going to take a deep dive, cover the must-have options, the key choices, and what potential pitfalls to avoid so that you can make the right decision and find the perfect car for you. Just before we get into it, I just wanted to give you a little bit of context with some of the prices. So the base price of the Revuelto at launch in the UK was £452,000. I have noticed some of the more recent examples have creeped up a little bit towards £460,000. But you know, with being a Lamborghini, that is just the start, because it is possible to spec over £200,000 worth of options like this car. And I think just in general, finding the right spec is not only important for your own enjoyment, but for future resale too. So one of the first and most personal choices you're going to want to make is the paint. And Lamborghini don't make this particularly easy because there are over 400 different colors you can choose from, but there are a little few different categories to make it a little bit easier. So there is the base color range. Some of these are no-cost options, something like the solid black, which is Nero Noctis, a solid white, which is Bianco Monoceros. You also have Rosso Mars, you have Giallo Algae. These are all solid paints and they don't cost a penny. But you can also get the metallic paints, which is something like this, which is Grigio Jerez. This actually has satin PPF over the top, but something also like Nero Helene. You have Verde Mantis is one of the metallic colors, and these actually cost just shy of £8,000. So there's no sort of halfway house where you can say, oh, I'll get the one that's £3,000 or £4,000. It is either the zero or you go shoot up straight to sort of £8,000. Now, there's another tier above that, and that's where Lamborghini actually categorize a few different types of paint. One of them is Eclettica. Eclettica is for the sort of much louder, expressive paints like this, which is called Viola Bast. These cost just over £10,000. They can sort of range between 10 and 15. You can get gloss, you can get matte, but there are some amazingly bright colors. I mean, if you look at the fleck in this paint, it's so metallic and flamboyant. It really does look amazing, especially in the sun. The other ranges, you have Sportiva, which is more performance-focused paints. You also have Contemporanea, which as the name suggests is more contemporary, sort of modern, elegant paints. I believe there's also a Classica range, which is more sort of heritage-inspired paints. Then you come on to something called Ad Personam, which is what this car is. And you have a range of paints as part of the Ad Personam palette, but you also can choose pretty much whatever you want. It's a bit like the Porsche paint to sample, where you can really select anything you want as long as you have a sort of swatch of that paint. The difference with this particular car is this has gone through the Ad Personam lounge at the factory, so you can go completely bespoke. And as you'll see, this car's got livery all over the car. You've got the stripe, you've got all the little pinstripes which go all in different places on the car, which is all painted at factory. So the upsides of this is you get something ultra exclusive that looks spectacular, and you're going to know no one else in the world is going to have one quite like this. The downsides are that you spend a fortune on it and you're not going to get a lot of that back from resale. Yes, it will have a premium over a standard car, but what you've ended up spending, you're just going to have to kiss a lot of that money goodbye. Personally, my advice would be to wait for the Revuelto SV or SVJ to really spec one up and go crazy, the limited edition models. But whereas something like this, obviously the benefit of being the second owner, where you can buy it from somewhere like here, where you've made a massive saving off list. So just a couple of little tips for resale on color. Now we find the most popular colors tend to be either those really sort of dark satin colors like a satin black or maybe a satin gray, which gives you that sort of Batmobile look where you can feel like Bruce Wayne, or go something really flamboyant. Obviously they've got the classic Lamborghini colors, the yellows, the oranges, the greens, or something a bit more new and unique like that Eclettica Viola Bast. So now onto the wheels, and for the first time on a Lamborghini V12 you can now get 22-inch wheels, or at least 22-inch wheels at the back You get 21s on the fronts. And these are the optional upgraded wheel, the Alternero wheels, and these seem to be the most popular wheel because the other wheels are actually smaller. I believe you have the Nancia wheel, which is a little bit more sort of understated. I'm yet to actually see a Revuelto with those wheels, or you can get the Triguero wheels. Those are a little bit more sort of spider design. I've seen a couple of cars with that. They also look good, but it does seem like the Alternero wheels are the most popular choice. The one thing you can obviously choose with these is the color. Some people say black wheels are going out of fashion, but as far as we can tell, all three of these cars have got black wheels. So we think black wheels are still very much in. Bronze wheels you can get, silver wheels you can get as well. You can even go ad personam for about £10,000. You can get a wheel in any color you want. What is slightly restricted is the color of your calipers. Obviously these cars, two of them have got red calipers on the sort of slightly more subtle colors, whereas the black brake calipers on the Viola Bass car, I guess if you get a paint that bright, you probably don't need bright calipers as well. And it is just finally worth mentioning, carbon ceramic brakes you do get as standard. There is no upgrade for the brakes. So now that you've chosen your paint and your wheels, you're probably going to now want to look out for the carbon fiber packs, because there are three different packs for the exterior. There is the lower exterior carbon pack, the upper pack, and there's also the extended pack. All three of our cars actually have the lower and the upper, so we'll start off by looking at those. And the lower pack does feature this little lower front spoiler here. It also features these sort of vertical slats, which are sort of inserts into the front bumper. As part of this pack, you also get what's called the Boccanera. Now that's this little section here, just under the headlights. You get that in high gloss, shiny black. You can't actually get this in carbon, but you can also get this in the body color. And it does sort of transform the look of the car. Some people prefer the high gloss black because it means the lights will get more sunken in, or some people, like you'll see in our Grigio Akeso car, you get it in the body color. It just does sort of, there is quite a bit of debate between owners about what looks best. Also, as part of the lower exterior carbon pack, you get the full side skirt. So that's this section here, which runs the whole way along the side of the car, and you get those very cool little fins here with the Revuelto badge. You also get the rocker cover in carbon, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's this section here, which is on the inside of the door, which is just covering up that little section there. And then finally, you also get the carbon fiber rear diffuser. Now that's a massive part, really amazingly sculpted, all the fins, and for me, that's worth getting alone the carbon exterior pack for the lower part, because it is a massive piece and it totally transforms the rear of the car. So now moving on to the upper carbon fiber exterior pack. So whilst the lower pack is about a £20,000 option, the upper pack is slightly cheaper by a grand or two, but it does still feature some amazing parts like this whole entire engine surround, the engine panel, which is that Cofango that lifts up, so many different sort of scoops going on, such a cool part that. You also get the fixed air intakes, which is this section here. You also get the door handle panel, which is here. So you're always going to be touching that when you get in the car. You also get the carbon fiber door mirrors, which look nice. And then finally, you also get this sort of windscreen frame, which just sits below the windscreen. So all in all, some nice little parts, and a combination of the two packs is going to set you back close to £40,000, but it is one of those things that a lot of Revuelto owners are really going to want to have. It is desirable, does push the price up quite a bit, but I think you should definitely try and go for that. So the only other exterior carbon part to look out for is this part here. This is the aerodynamic fin, so it's not included in any of the packs. I think Lamborghini separate this because it is a bit 50-50 as to whether people want this or not, because it does look really cool, but also some people do prefer to have this in the body color, just so you can keep the clean lines and the clean color all in one down the side of the car, whereas this does break up the paint a little bit, but it does look pretty cool as well. So the third and final carbon exterior pack is the extended carbon pack. This is £29,000. That might be part of the reason we don't see it very often, but the other reason I think is because it can look a bit over the top, because it is the entire roof and the A-pillars in carbon fiber. Also the entire rear bonnet, so not just this engine bay surround, but the entire bonnet all up here as well, and the rear spoiler. So pretty much the whole top part of the car is in carbon. It can look a little bit too much going on, I think, especially if you pick a nice paint like this. So for me, it's probably not only too expensive, but I think it's one that you can leave off. I don't think it's that important. But if you prefer matte carbon, you can also get all the carbon packs in matte like you have on our Grigio Occaso car, and it doesn't actually cost really any difference to having it in gloss. So if that's your preference, that is also an option. What do you get if you don't spec any of the carbon packs? Now, we have had a car before which doesn't have any of those packs, and you'll notice it is actually just a bit of a, almost like a black plastic look. So it doesn't look all that great, and I'd say you'd only want to get that if you really want to keep your list price super low, because there are a couple of options to overcome that without spending loads of money on carbon. So Lamborghini owners will probably know there is something called the Style Pack, which you'll get on all the different Lamborghini models. And that basically means all those parts which are carbon, you can actually get them painted instead of going carbon and instead of that plastic look. So you can get them in a body color. I think that's about a £3 or to get the high gloss shiny black, which I think does look good and is a good sort of halfway house between the basic and the carbon, that's about £7,000. And another thing you might want to consider is the roof, which comes in body color as standard, but you can pay extra to have it painted in a black, matte black like this. I don't actually have the exact cost of it because this was bundled in with the whole upper livery pack, but don't be surprised if it is north of £10,000. Final few exterior options before we go onto the interior, and this is really just aesthetics on the back. So I'll start off with the exhaust tip. So as standard, they come in a sort of matte silver, but you can pay extra to get the matte black tailpipes, just giving you a more stealthy look. Same really here with the Lamborghini logo, which comes in silver as standard, but you can choose to get it in gloss black or matte black. Again, just giving you that stealthy look if you get it in black. And then just finally, you'll notice this car has got the livery on the rear diffuser. That was a £3,000 extra. I do think does look pretty cool, especially at night when you'll see the brake lights lit up and the rear lights and the rear diffuser. It is a real cool sight in the evening. So now moving on to the interior, and one of the key choices you'll make here is choosing the type of seat. So like you'll find in the Hurricanes and the Aventadors, you do get a choice of sort of two types of seats. These are the sport seats, so they were about a £6,500 option, and of course they're made of carbon fiber, and they're just a little bit more sort of race focused. So they snug round you, the bolsters come out a little bit more, and personally I find them pretty comfortable and nice and snug and a good driving position, but some people obviously may prefer those comfort seats. But these are manually adjustable, but they sort of move forwards and backwards pretty smoothly. You've also got the racing seat lifter, so you can actually lever it up and to get a higher or a lower driving position. But yeah, I think these are a pretty good choice. But interestingly, most of the Revueltos we've sold have actually been with the fully electric comfort seats. And these are the comfort seats. So whilst they are the standard seats, you can upgrade them to get them fully electric and heated. I think it's about a £2,500 option. And the idea with these is they're meant to be a little bit easier to live with, a little bit more comfortable, perhaps a little bit more forgiving depending on your frame, but easier to get in and out of. But maybe controversially, I actually find the sport seats comfier. That might just be because of my frame, but also the fact that they sit a little bit lower. So the fully electric seats, they do, because they're a little bit chunkier, they sit a little bit higher up in the cabin. I don't get quite as much headroom, but I guess the benefits are you get all the buttons on the side, so you can move the seat back and forth a little bit easier. Nothing's manual, you get a bit more lumbar support. But do they look as good as the sport seats? I'm not so sure. What I would say is I would recommend sitting in both seats. It is a key choice. The last thing you want to do is spend $500,000 on a car and then can't get comfortable in the seat. So I would recommend trying out both. Okay, so now we're going to talk about sort of interior themes and colors and the sort of styling of the seats, because there are a few different options you can go for here. So this car here has actually got something called the contrast color scheme. So this basically gives you most of the seat in one color. So in here it's black, and then you get that contrast in color. So you've got it on the top half of the seat bolsters here in red, and then you'll notice the sort of red through the center console and the dash. And that just gives you a bit of a lift to the interior, especially if you get the inverted stitching. The other things to point out on this option is you get the Cucitura on the middle of the seat. The Cucitura, you'll notice the hexagonals sit vertically, and you'll also know the Y on the lower part of the seat is in the same color as the rest of the seat. So next up, we have the Sportiva interior. Now this is a proper two-tone interior, whereas before the contrast colors were a little bit more subtle. This is where you get a proper two-tone. You get a much wider variety of colors you can go for as well, and you really get the sort of the black on the outside of the bolsters and a totally different color through the center of the seat. Obviously this customer chose the sort of purpley pink to match the exterior, but you can get a whole range. The other things you'll notice is the hexagonal design. The Cucitura is much larger, also sits horizontally, and the Y in the seat is a contrasting color to the rest of the seat. But yeah, this is an option if you want your colors to be a little bit more lively inside. And now onto what is called the unicolor interior, which, as you'll probably guess, it's all one color. So in this car, you don't get quite as many options with the sport seats anyway, but this has obviously gone with that unicolor, full black leather everywhere. You do have the inverted stitching and piping, which I think is probably needed because it gives the interior a little bit lift. It'd probably be a little bit bland without that. And you'll notice full leather, so none of the Corsa-Tex, that sort of Alcantara fabric you would have seen in the other cars. There is one more theme you can choose for your interior. It's called the Classica range, and these are a little bit more simplistic, so you get the horizontal lines through the seats. So if you like your interior to be a bit more understated, you might go for that. So now we're going to talk about interior carbon fiber, and you actually get quite a bit of interior carbon as standard. So this section down here, where the start-stop engine button is, the section that surrounds the touchscreen, and also this section on the dash and the section that surrounds the driver display screen is all standard. You'll notice it's in matte as well, but there are two different options you can get, or packs I should say, for the interior carbon. One of them this car has got, and that is the steering wheel package. I believe it's cost almost £7,000, so it is expensive, but it does give you that nice carbon steering wheel, so carbon at the top, carbon at the bottom, and you also get the entire steering column in carbon fiber as well, and the paddle shifts. So that is all part of that pack, but there is one more pack you can get which this car doesn't have, and it's for the center tunnel box, which you'll notice here is actually in that sort of matte black plastic, and the door panels up here also this car doesn't have. Whereas this car does have that carbon fiber interior details pack is what it's called, and it is just shy of £7,000, and all you do really get is you get the center tunnel box, which is this section here, and you'll notice actually the surrounds, the USB-C slots are also in carbon, but actually from a driver's view you don't actually see a lot of it, but you will see this little section here, so you do get those carbon details on the door panel, which is quite nice. But for me, if you're going to have one of them, I'd always select the carbon fiber steering wheel package. That is a steering wheel that you're going to be touching every time you drive it, so for me that's the better one to have if you're only going to have one. So now we're going to talk about some of the tech and convenience options to look out for. And one of the first ones, I think one of the important ones, is the passenger display. So this is the first time Lamborghini have done this. You'll see it in Ferraris and a few Porsches as well. But you get the nice little display, electronic display, where you can see things for the passenger, can see what gear you're in, you can see what speed we're going in, you can see what mode you're in, and a few other little bits as well. But it is a nice thing for the passenger to see. So for me, which was about a £3,000 option, it is one you should try and get. The other thing, whilst I'm here, you'll notice the cup holders. This is actually a cost option. I think £600 or £700 to get the two cup holders in the dashboard. And if you don't get those, you just get a sort of Alcantara or Corsa-Tex, I should say, sort of strip. So may as well get those as well, right? So as standard, you get the Lamborghini sound system. So you get for that 2 speakers in the doors, or 1 in each door, and you get 2 speakers on the dashboard. It is a little bit basic, and all 3 of our cars have that, but there is now an upgraded sound system. It's a Sonos Faber sound system. It's about £5,000, but you'll notice pretty much all the Revueltos on the market have the basic sound system. That's because it wasn't actually available until very recently. I've only ever seen one car with it, but if you do like your music and your sound systems, you might have to buy a much later car or order one today to get that upgraded sound system. So Lamborghini introduced something called the headlamps package. It was about a £3,000 option, which gives you the matrix beams that you might have heard of. It also gives you a sort of boosted high beam, also gives you adaptive headlights and an automatic high beam. So if you do drive at night, you probably will want to look out for a car with the headlamps package. So there's 4 more packs I'm going to quickly run through, but for me, there's only one that's a real deal breaker, and that is the smartphone interface and connected services, because that is basically Apple CarPlay and Android Auto if you're more of an Android person. But that, for so many people, it is a game changer, it is a deal breaker. people have got so used to having it that it becomes a real annoyance if you don't have a car with it. So that's the one to look out for. The others, I think, are sort of take it or leave it. You have the Highway Assistant Pack, which is only really a £2,000 option. That gives you things like adaptive cruise control, gives you things like emergency braking. Some of these things, you know, all these driving assistant things, some people like turning those off, which you can actually do, but I think they're just nice to have if you can. There's also the Surround Assistance Pack. This is more sort of blind spot monitor, side assist, things like that. Again, just a £2,000 option. Not an essential by any means, but quite nice to have the option. And then there is finally the parking package, just shy of £3,000. And you might think we should go for this, but the car actually comes as standard with a rear view camera and parking sensors. So the parking package is only for those that really worry about parking, because you get a top view camera and you get ultrasonic parking sensors. So again, nice to have, but definitely not an essential. So that does cover pretty much all the important options and packs on the car. There are a few other little things you might want to look out for, something like auxiliary heating. That is basically a way to speed up the heating of the cabin, so you don't even have to turn the engine on. So for colder climates, that could be quite useful. There's things like garage door opener, some of you will probably want. You obviously have to pay extra to get a tracker. Can get an electric steering column, things like that. But look, not overly important, but that really is it. Other than the warranty, it is worth mentioning. So you actually get 4 years warranty on the Revuelto, which is a nice little upgrade from the Aventador, where you only got 3 to begin with. And we all know extended warranties on Lamborghinis can be quite expensive. So you can actually upgrade it from new to a 5th year for about £5,000. So it'll probably save you a few thousand if you try and do it in 4 years' time to upgrade that. So that might be an option if you're planning to keep the car long term. So that's it. Hopefully you've got a few useful tips and insights into speccing up a Revuelto or buying one second hand. It is worth bearing in mind these two are still for sale. The one on the end is now sold, but you can find details of these on our website at romansinternational.com. But thank you for watching, and we'll have another video for you very soon.